Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell. Today we bring you an encore presentation of one of our very favorite programs. This one focuses on healthy cooking. Many of us are firing up the grill and trying to make better choices. Maybe this show could help you out. Right now, our team is working hard behind the scenes to bring you more amazing stories when our live programming returns in September. However, if there is an urgent update from the health system, we will be here to let you know first. Until then, please enjoy this encore presentation and make it a great day. Coming up today, sizzle, chop, and stir, the kitchen/classroom for the doctors of tomorrow. How culinary medicine can improve everyone's lives and even treat certain symptoms. Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell, and welcome to the Morning Medical Update. Food can hurt your health. It can also help your health, and the impact goes way beyond your waistline and your GI tract. More and more health experts are embracing the idea of medicine as food, or food as medicine, where patients are empowered to improve their health through food. Today, we are exploring what that means with two experts, and we will meet someone living with a severe food allergy triggered by a tick bite. But first, Alexis Del Cid takes us inside a culinary medicine class at the University of Kansas Medical Center.
Between the dicing, grating, cutting, mixing, chopping, and sizzling, this looks like a regular cooking class.
Go ahead and get another cup measure.
But these are KU Med School students, and this class is the brainchild of University of Kansas Health System allergist, Dr. Marissa Love.
You might be wondering, well, why is an allergist doing cooking classes?
Over the years, Dr. Love says she noticed a common thread among her food allergy patients.
Many of my patients were underserved in low-income communities, didn't have access to a big box grocery store or a specialty grocery store. Food insecurity and food allergy double burden or food restriction double burden is significant.
These will be perfect.
Most of them couldn't afford, let alone find, safe and nutritious food, and were overwhelmed when it came to creating the meals themselves.
The cost of specialty foods is astronomical compared to, regular foods that don't have gluten-free or milk-free or peanut-free or top 9 free.
That looks so good. That looks so good.
So Dr. Love reached out to dietetics and nutrition chair at KU Med, Professor Deborah Sullivan, for help developing a culinary medicine class.
It's just a great collaboration.
The goal? Educate future healthcare workers who will soon have patients of their own with similar struggles of accessibility and affordability, allergies or not.
As soon as you hit C, pull it.
Okay.
They're going to be dealing with patients that have diabetes, that have obesity, that have heart disease, high blood pressure.
It's just important for students to have that lived experience so that they can better relate to their patients and be able to counsel their patients about the importance of healthy cooking and how to get nutritious meals without sacrificing taste.
Each course is 3 days long, but Dr. Love has big dreams to one day expand and develop a culinary medicine center for people across the community so they can all learn how to nurture themselves and feed their families safe, nutritious, and affordable meals.
And we are glad to have Dr. Marissa Love with us today. She's an allergist and immunologist at the University of Kansas Health System. We just heard from her there in that piece. We also saw Rachel Chordash, a cooking instructor who specializes in crafting healthy recipes, especially when it comes to gluten-free. We know that's very popular these days. Good to have you. And we are so happy to have the perspective of Elisa Poe. Elisa knows her way around the kitchen, but had to stop working as a chef when she developed a very rare allergy due to food. So we're going to learn about that. Elisa is also a patient of Dr. Love. What has it been like working with Dr. Love when it comes to understanding and managing your particular allergy?
Well, Dr. Love has been very patient with me because of going through a lot of different allergists to find someone that listens and that will go deeper with me into understanding alpha-gal. She's been very good to be very conscientious of my needs.
Let's talk about alpha-gal. You're living with this. It's an allergy that you acquire from getting a tick bite. Do you remember that specific tick bite that you received that then led to this allergy?
Yes, I do, but I had no idea that's what I was experiencing, that it was the cause.
You were out on a retreat, and you said you're kind of an outdoorsy gal, so you were used to just getting tick bites all the time. No big deal.
We're operating this retreat center in southwestern Missouri, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, my hands were burning and itching. I thought I had cleaning solution on my hands, and they started swelling and turning red, and then I started getting hives. And
you had never experienced that before with other tick bites?
No, and I had never had food allergies or any allergies before. I didn't know what it was, so my husband got up with me and we got into the nearest hospital, which was about 30 minutes through the National Forest to get there. By the time I was there, the hives were head to toe, and I was swelling. And I had a little burn on my arm that was just dripping with.
That's scary.
It was very scary. My throat did not close up, but I had very severe. The emergency room workers and doctors were telling me this was a food allergy, and I had never had one. I was cooking American fare, camp food. So I couldn't get the connection.
Yeah.
So it took 1.5 years to get the correct diagnosis.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. It took a while to find Dr. Love. Hard to find the right allergist that, like you said, knows exactly what you're dealing with. But how did that diagnosis come about? How did that happen? And what kind of questions were you asking? Because I remember when I heard of alpha-gal, I had no clue.
Right. Well, the emergency room at the hospital didn't know what was causing it. I had no clue. I thought maybe we were living in a log cabin. I thought maybe it was the chemicals in the logs from the log cabin, So I had several trips to the emergency room. Finally, my blood pressure dropped. I hit the ground. On the way down, my husband caught me, and I was blind for an hour as he drove me to the hospital. After that, it was like we were working 90 plus hours a week, so it was hard to even think about taking care of myself and getting to the hospital or to find a doctor at the time. But I found a good doctor. He sent me to an allergist. She didn't know about alpha-gal in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I had a bad experience because she said, "You're allergic to beef and pork." So I got some lamb chops and had another reaction, so I got a second opinion. This doctor was in Rogers, Arkansas, and he had heard of alpha-gal, which was first discovered in 2007. Was the first diagnosis.
So, Dr. And good for you getting a second opinion, even when it comes to allergies. We talk about that quite a bit. So, what is alpha-gal for those who may not know?
Yeah, so most folks refer to it as alpha-gal, short for alpha-gal syndrome, and it's actually when a person gets bitten by the Lone Star tick, some people afterwards will develop an allergy antibody to one of the sugar compounds that binds the allergen. And so they develop an allergy antibody against that compound, and that compound is only found in four-legged mammalian meats. So beef, pork, lamb, venison is what it's found in. Typically, the fattier the meat, the more of that compound is in there. And then, as I said, not everyone develops a reaction, but some people do.
Why are they so severe?
Yeah, so it varies. Many times people will get hives, but you can get anything from hives to anaphylaxis to just nausea and vomiting, but they are at high risk of anaphylaxis.
Elisa is shaking her head when she mentions some of those other symptoms. You've experienced most of, not all of those?
All of them.
All of them. So on that note,
Also,
yeah, please.
I've cooked for people that are at a lower level that can still have Parmesan cheese or powdered milk in her recipe.
And what kind of burden has this put on you? We talk about you can't now cook anymore. You can't do your job as a chef.
No, correct. I tried several different, like cold kitchen cooking. I've tried cooking in daycares, because there's less meat there. But with all the cheese and the milk, I would have reactions, washing dishes or whatever.
Even being in the same room with those type of items?
If I'm in a commercial kitchen and beef and pork is being cooked and I breathe the smoke, in a couple of hours I will have some anaphylactic symptoms.
Rachel, good to see you today. So I understand you have a child living with celiac disease.
I do.
So we know, or I know, but others don't, but I learned because I have a friend with celiac that very strict, no gluten in the diet. So first, how did you learn that your child had celiac? What were any signs, symptoms?
Like a lot of families, it was a kind of long journey to get the diagnosis. He had symptoms that a lot of people wouldn't associate with a gastrointestinal disease, an autoimmune disease, starting with mainly respiratory symptoms. So we saw many doctors, went to many different specialists. It wasn't top of mind for a lot of people. So it really took a long time and a lot of work to get a diagnosis.
It's like very pinpointed, trying to find that right diagnosis and then the right doctor to do it. So what kind of an adjustment? I know I try to cook for young kids. It's very as hard as it is. Then you have to remove gluten from the diet. How were you cooking for your family?
Yeah, it was a huge adjustment for our family. For me personally, I'm a chef and cooking teacher, and I owned a traditional wheat flour bakery business at the time. So it was quite an adjustment for me and for our family. We at the time, because my son was so small and he was on the floor, just decided to take gluten out of our kitchen because he was so sensitive that a small crumb or a pan touching another pan is enough to send him into reaction.
That's tough to go cold turkey. Is that the advice you would have to give to other parents who might have the same diagnosis in their family? Just cut it off completely? Or maybe Dr. Love, I could ask you, is that something that you would wean off, or is it that serious that something like that would have to be taken out immediately?
For some of these conditions that have food restrictions, the side effects can be pretty significant and quality of life can be very much affected. And so for some people who would have more peace of mind by taking that particular trigger out of their diet, that helps. In some cases where you are at life-threatening risk of a severe allergic reaction, like the IgE-driven food allergies, like alpha-gal syndrome, it is so important to really eliminate all of that. And for some people with celiac, while they don't have anaphylaxis from eating gluten, they feel miserable if they do eat it. So,
well, good for you for being able to do that. Let's head into the kitchen, and thanks for letting us come into these cooking classes. We took our camera inside there. Let's talk about what you teach in that culinary medicine course.
Yeah, so it is a wonderful interprofessional collaboration. So it's case-based learning. We go through a patient who might have diabetes, hypertension, and essentially mimic what nutrition counseling would be like if they were to meet a dietitian. And then the students talk about what diet or dietary changes might be good for that patient to follow. And then they cook, which is so exciting. Some of these students have never tried certain foods. I think it took us a little while to cook shrimp in the kitchen because someone had a shrimp allergy the first few times, and then we talk about food safety. It's so important to talk about how long does the food stay out, where should we store it, when you have limited equipment. And potentially, limited refrigeration at home, that's an important thing to think about.
Yeah, Rachel, how has it been kind of opening the eyes of these students to an area they may not have come to mind when they went to med school?
It's really wonderful because it brings to life, I think, the things they're talking about on paper. It would be like if you tell someone you're going to have to take salt out of your diet, but what do you actually do? How do you actually make your food taste good?
Yeah, yeah.
Or if you have an allergy and you need to cook for multiple people in your family, you can't afford the allergy-free food for everyone. How do you keep that safe? How do you use different equipment? How do you clean the things? Preventing that is a lot, and it's good for them to see it.
Yeah, putting that in action. 'Cause as you said, taking salt out. You can say it in your head, okay, we're going to take salt out, but what does that actually look like? So, Dr. Love, how do you define culinary medicine, and how might that be different than just nutrition, good nutrition?
Yeah, so I think the best way to describe it is really meeting people where they're at. It's very much getting a good understanding of what the patient needs, what resources they have, what access to food they have, what baseline cooking skills they have, and combining all of that together to meet them where they're at. When people try to lose weight, you don't lose 15 pounds overnight, right? You make small little changes over time. And for some people, they've never eaten salad before. They've never eaten legume before, or black beans. So you have to meet them where they're at because it needs to be sustainable. So taking all of the principles that we learn from nutrition classes, dietetics, medicine, and learning about all of these chronic diet-treated related conditions, and bringing that into the kitchen and providing some basic skill.
Looking at that video, I noticed all this pop of beautiful color, because it's neat to know that some of those ingredients are grown right here on the KU Med campus. So they go garden to kitchen to table. So Rachel and both Dr. Love, why is it important for people to know where their food comes from and appreciate where their food comes from?
It's true. I think it's when you get something that is local, that is fresh, that is from right here, not only does it taste better and taste fresher and it's more appealing to you, you want to eat it, but also you understand what's really in season, which is probably what is the most cost effective for you as well. So if you are on a budget, you are able to make this delicious food at the height of its season. And here you can see all around the campus how you can do that just in simple pots.
Yeah, that's
in small places.
Yeah, making that connection, because it all comes back down, like you said, to making it accessible and affordable. Why is that so important?
Yeah, so I think many times food prescription pantries often give you just a bag. If you're food insecure, you meet the criteria, they just give you a bag, and you don't get to choose what food is in there. So utilizing fresh farmers markets, fresh food, fresh produce allows for choice. Allows for some dignity when you're shopping. There's no shame when you're shopping for fresh foods, and it's healthier. We talk about in our class the amount of time it takes for fresh produce to get to a big box grocery store. And it looks beautiful, but it looks beautiful because there's several things that are sprayed on it, potentially. And whereas you could go to your backyard or the local garden and pick carrots directly out of the of the soil and eat it later today.
Well, and it's the appreciation of the food. And like you said, with a little research, you can learn what's in season, and then kind of take the power back, put the power back in the hands of those patients. So let's talk about bees. There's a beehive here on the campus. Do you use honey in the class, I take it?
We do. So my students in June actually were tasked with a garden tour where they took us all around all the different gardens and developed recipes with the different herbs and things from the gardens on KUMC campus. And we ended at the beehive. So we have 80,000 bees on campus, and we're so fortunate that BKC, shout out to them, they manage the beehives, and it's a collaboration between them and the botanic gardens at KUMC. Those 80,000 beehives pollinate all of our plants and produce for about a 2-mile radius.
Very
so
cool. Lots going on. I love that. Be sure to ask your questions. You can use the chat on YouTube or Facebook. You can email the Medical News Network. Information is right there on your screen. So, Elisa, I'm curious about your mental health because it's tough. You're having to give up foods you love and easy access foods like meat and cheese and milk, and then you have to give up your job. How did you cope with that mentally?
It was very difficult to finally come to the realization that I had to just stop. You know, I kept trying different jobs, different situations. With the feeding myself to eat, I had to come to the place where this is poisonous to me. And I had to change my expectations about flavors and things and to explore more into the food science side of things. And that was very healthy for my mind and my being. I did go into a pretty deep depression for about a year when I came to the realization that I couldn't work and do what I love to do, and preparing food and serving people.
Thank you for being open about that. We know people do struggle with mental health when they're dealing with a physical health issue, but you said you have you reclaimed joy in cooking. I think you shared some photos with us of some of your recent creations.
Yes,
these look pretty amazing. So tell us about them.
Vegan cucumber sandwiches with a plant-based cream cheese and cucumbers and a little onion and a little vegan mayonnaise. This is an apple tart. And yeah, just, is that mine? Yes, those are mine.
You did that.
Yeah.
That looks.
This is some fish and some poached peaches.
Have you enjoyed the challenge of trying to make things taste?
Yes.
Have you kind of, okay.
Yes, and our son moved back in with us during COVID, and he, of course, has cooked with me since he was in a high chair. And he likes to research things and challenge me. So he keeps pushing the edge for me and challenging me and getting me vegan cookbooks and you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we cook around the world, and we cook all the colors, you know, and we have vegan nights. And we challenge each other, and
I think that's fun. I do. I think that's great.
It is. It's a family, all-encompassing thing.
The same with you, Rachel, I would imagine. Yeah, when you have gluten-free family, it's all or nothing. We're all in it together. So, but it's not always easy for people to just jump in the kitchen. You know, we shy away. We always go back to what's easy. I know I do, but there's a lot of ways for people to get on cooking shows and look at things online. But for people who are afraid to jump in, where would be a good starting ground if they're wanting to make some slight changes?
You know, I think it is intimidating for people, and I think sometimes those cooking shows give us a little bit of a false idea. We're going to go in, it's going to be chopped, and we're going to do it really fast and you know, make a huge change. But like Dr. Love said, it's about small changes, and that's in the kitchen as well. Yeah. So maybe taking something that you already make, that you already love. Tweak it, make small changes. You know, in the class this last year, the first day we had sort of a progression of spaghetti, but you could do the same with any dish. And you take the original that you already make, and maybe you add a few vegetables. Maybe you saute some onions and some celery and carrots and things like that and just add a little flavor. Or maybe you go a little farther and you add some more herbs to your cooking. And I think those small progressions are easier for people in terms of flavor.
Building on what you already know.
Yes.
That's actually a really good idea. I'm making a mental note of that. But incorporating new things into your diet, very important. But what about trying to get things out of the diet for people who are craving? The cravings are key with sugar and fast food. Any advice with that?
Yeah, it's a similar piece of advice in that if you really want a burger, telling yourself that you're going to eat broccoli forever, I think is very difficult. Maybe you move it to something that's a little bit different. Maybe you eat a chicken burger, or maybe still bring try to bring as many of those same flavors and the ritual of it. Going out in the backyard and grilling something and hanging out with your family may be what you really love about that.
Dr. Love, you recently launched a crowdfunding effort for culinary medicine at KUMC. What do you want that money to go towards?
Yeah. So it launched on Wednesday, and it's www.launchku.org/culinary medicine. We are so excited about this. There's so much excitement on campus for culinary medicine, and specifically the funding for this will help support the education for medical students this year. Last year we were so lucky to get a grant, but this year we are running on limited budget, and it's going to be an interesting but exciting class. And so it'll just support that seed funding for culinary medicine and teaching the med students.
Fantastic. I have to also ask you about a new alternative to the EpiPen. The FDA recently approved the first ever nasal spray for anaphylactic shock called Neffy. Is this a big deal for patients?
Absolutely.
Tell us about it.
I'm so excited about this. So Neffy is a nasal epinephrine. It comes in a device that is similar to the naloxone or Narcan nasal device. And so it's just a mist or a spray in the nose. And it is approved for patients who are over 66 pounds or 30 kilos. So we're so excited because it eliminates the need for a needle or an injection if the person's having anaphylaxis. It's used similarly to the regular set of epinephrine auto injectors, and you would use the first dose at the first sign of anaphylactic-like symptoms, and then if you're not having improvement, about 5 minutes later, you would spray the second dose on the same side of the nose. There are a few caveats. So if you've had nasal surgery or nasal polyps, that potentially could affect absorption. But when they approved the Neffy based on 4 studies of 175 adults, the absorption of epinephrine and the changes in heart rate and blood pressure were very similar to EpiPens. And for the children that were of the same weight, it also mimicked the same biometric measures. So I'm really excited about this because eventually it'll get approved for children too, for smaller folks, and that will be such a huge game changer.
That's where it'll all start. Big help for parents. Let's get to some community questions, and we're going to start with a comment from Jeremy, because he says big shout out to folks dealing with these food allergies. It's something that people who don't fully understand them, really understand the impact that it has on people's lives. He says we deal with dairy issues, celiac, pork intolerance at my house. It's definitely a lot more than just having to tweak recipes. It's a major life ramifications if they don't do it right. So he's like they've got to make little tweaks to dairy, anything that contains oregano. Just little things like that you don't even think about. So he says, we feel you and you've got this. But he has a question. He wants to know, is it real or is it an internet myth that eating local honey is helpful for allergies when it comes to bee pollination? Is that, what is it?
I love that question. It's a great question. So when we think about the honey and the bees, so the bees go around and basically feed off of flower pollen. Flower pollen typically does not have as much weed pollen, tree pollen, grass pollen in it. So the honey theoretically would have mostly flower pollen and less of the pollen that we're actually allergic to. Now, is it harmful to eat honey? No, as long as you eat it in moderation. Could you get a little bit of an effect from potentially eating local honey? Possibly, but the research is not clear.
Okay, because I admit, I always look for the little local sticker on there thinking I'm doing something really great. But
well, you are. You're supporting local.
Absolutely. So I'm going to keep doing it. And I don't have any weird allergies, so I'm good. But yeah, I will keep hitting that local button for sure. Question from Amy: how do you define processed and ultra-processed foods?
Yeah, so I might actually defer that one to Chef Rachel because she's an expert in this.
Well, processed and ultra-processed. So a processed food would be really any food that has undergone a transformation. So say cheese would be a processed food, right? But you could make that at home. I could teach you how. I could go to your house and with a little bit of vinegar.
Cheese.
Absolutely. You could get a gallon of milk and I'd give you a spoonful of vinegar. Boom, you have ricotta cheese, and then we could take it from there. It would be a small transformation. Bread is a processed food. They've milled the grain into flour, already a processed food. You combine some things, you get bread. An ultra-processed food would be a food that contains processes or chemicals that you can't really achieve at home, or that out of ingredients that you can't purchase. They would mostly be chemical ingredients, and usually that's done to either change the texture of the food. Let's say you want the really squishy bread or donuts that just, you know, or you want it to have a longer shelf life. They're really in there to preserve it so it will last a really long time. Because if you and I made cheese together, you know, that you would have to eat it or it would go bad. But you know, some very processed cheeses, maybe the kind that comes in the little wrapper individually, that will last for a really, really long time.
Right.
So that those ingredients and those processes take it from a processed food to an ultra-processed food.
Please don't pick on cheese. That's like my favorite nighttime snack.
There's so many good cheeses out there.
You can go after donuts. Do not touch the cheese. Okay, Alexis wants to know, she often feels uncomfortable going to people's houses and wants to know, I want to hear from our guest about how do you handle that when you go maybe to someone's home or you're a guest or you have to ask for special accommodations. What advice might you have for someone who goes through that?
One thing at our house, we have 2 grills. One for poultry, seafood, and vegetables, and one for beef and pork. And my husband and my son cook the beef and pork, and they have to do the dishes, you know. When I go to someone's house, I usually explain my situation, and I'll take my own little meal or something.
You take your own.
Yes. When I go out to a restaurant, I have a little handout that I give the server because I know how high stress they are and they can't remember all the mammal things. My allergy even goes into gelatin and lanolin and wool and leather. And so
that's really smart, handing out to the server and let her take it back to the chef.
And they take it to the chef.
Yeah.
But it's almost like getting on an airplane and putting your life in the hands of the pilot because you don't know if the person in the back has the skills or has the understanding, or if there's cross-contamination going on, or if they even read English. You know, there's just a variety of factors that can
And you're always
influence.
thinking for them. That's good.
Yes, so there's a few restaurants that are allergy friendly, and I've been giving Dr. Love a list of those when I do venture out. But my world has shrunk a great deal.
Elisa, what else would you like people to know? What's the big takeaway from your story?
Be careful. You know, if something goes wrong, try to find out quickly what it is. It took 1.5 years for me to get the correct diagnosis because I was just so busy and I just didn't know. that it was a food allergy
Dr.
from the
Love,
tick bite.
what's the big takeaway?
Yeah, I think most importantly, if you have symptoms that you think might be related to a food, reach out to your primary care doctor. And if they and you think that a specialist would be appropriate, come see us. I love to see my food allergy patients, even some of my patients who don't have true food allergies but have food intolerances. We work through it, and I think Elisa is a great example, and Chef Rachel are great examples of, even though there's this restriction, you can be successful and enjoy life. You have to tweak things slightly over time, and then you have a kind of a different mindset, a different expectation. And I think, utilizing your network of physicians, nutritionists, chefs, dietitians, and hopefully a patient community to build a new life.
Yeah, lots of hope and
basically.
empowerment, I hear in your voice. So Chef Rachel, wrap us up. What's the big takeaway today?
Get into the kitchen with a spirit of discovery, and you can make these changes and have delicious food for your whole life, no matter what your limitations are.
Thank you for being with us. Elisa, thank you for sharing your story. We appreciate it.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and open mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now, everywhere podcasts are available.